There was a hero's welcome awaiting Ingemar Johansson when he flew home to Sweden. Fair enough, for with his mighty right hand, he'd not only laid low world champion Floyd Patterson, he'd also smashed America's 25-year monopoly of the heavyweight title. Yes, the title was back in Europe at last, and so was the new champ, fresh from his tremendous triumph in New York's Yankee Stadium.
Boxing suffered 3 sad losses this past couple of weeks. Reg Gutteridge, Jose Torres and former world heavyweight champion Ingemar Johansson passed away aged 76. The Swede best remembered for beating Floyd Patterson back in 1959 to become heavyweight champion of the world. Steve.
Yeah, interesting. Torres was a terrific light heavyweight and a good writer, and became at one point a sort of close confidant of Mike Tyson. Reg Gutteridge, I mean, we haven't got enough time. We could do 2 2-hour shows with Reg Gutteridge's quips, and we will actually get some together. But if we look at Ingemar Johansson, who passed away, wasn't even that old, to be perfectly honest with you, Andy. When he went over to fight Floyd Patterson in New York, I think it was at Yankee Stadium, 19,000 people there. The US, one of the top American boxing writers, a guy called Jimmy Cannon, said Ingo is so bad that I doubt what my eyes have seen. The UN should step in and prevent him being smashed to a pulp by Patterson. And yet he said, Ingo, he said, shaking hands with Patterson is like shaking hands with a lace curtain. But what really outraged everybody, and absolutely outraged everybody, is that Patterson was at some kind of fairly dirty gym, whereas Ingo was up at a place called Grossinger's. It's a resort, mostly a Jewish resort, in the Catskill Mountains in upstate New York, and he was there with his girlfriend, who was quite attractive, so much so that Peter Wilson, arguably the greatest ever British boxing writer, he said that about Burgett, the girlfriend, he said in a candy-striped pink and white cotton frock, she looked as cool and delectable as a strawberry ice with a scoop of cream on top of it. I mean, it was a fight. He had no chance. There wasn't a single American or Brit backing him, and even the Swedish press that had made the journey, they may have been backing into his face, but no one expected him to beat Patterson at this stage. Nobody.
It's poetic. We'll have a look back at that fight now with the legendary Harry Carpenter taking us through it.
Johansson's in New York to sign contracts for the Patterson fight. When I think back and remember how vulnerable Floyd Patterson was to a punch on the chin, I wriggle with embarrassment at not giving Johansson more of a chance. This is the luxury hotel camp in the Catskill Mountains, where Johansson trained. He spent much of his time in and around this pool, telling me how he was going to win, but I didn't think he could. More fool me. Yankee Stadium, the scene of the fight, June 1959. It's a day late taking place. A hurricane swept the eastern seaboard and brought lashing rain. We've walked on duckboards to the ringside, along with stars like John Wayne and Bill Holden. Johansson weighed in at 14 stone. Patterson's very light, 13 stone. This is the moment when a fight reporter gets that prickly feeling down his spine. The last few seconds before the really big one, the World Heavyweight Championship. And you wonder how they must feel. The Swede had taken a bad ribbing from the American press. They called him the Hick from the Sticks and the Swedish Meatball. None of them had seen him fight, of course. I had, but I still tipped Patterson because I thought he'd outbox Ingemar. But as you'll see, it's the other way round. Johansson out-jabs Patterson and wastes no time about it. Ingemar has said all along, I'll set him up with the left and knock him out with the right. I sat there thinking, it can't happen. but it was beginning to. Watch Johansson try the big right hand. That was the first ominous moment for Patterson, a hint of things to come. At this point, I believe I was still convinced Patterson would win. Patterson's a 4-1 favourite, and for a moment here, he looks worthy of it. Nothing here to indicate the shattering incidents of the round coming up. In just a few more moments, this Swede will have everyone in the Yankee Stadium up on their feet, screaming. Except Patterson. He doesn't spend much more time on his feet. This, I think, is the most sensational round of any fight I've seen. Everything happened so quickly, it was difficult to take it in. I was talking my story down the phone to London, when suddenly the whole scene just seemed to explode. It was just the way Ingemar had said it would be. Set him up with the left, knock him over with the right. Patterson had been down often before, in fact, in most of his title fights. So I suppose we should have been prepared for this. But the simple truth is, we didn't think a European heavyweight could do this to an American world champion. It's quite clear from this first knockdown that Patterson had no idea where he was. And I've always since thought it amazing that Johansson didn't go on to knock him out. The second knockdown makes me wince even now, 11 years on. What you'll see here is one of the most graphic illustrations of a fighter's instinctive will to get up and go on. It commands your admiration, but you fear that a man can be too courageous for his own good. Patterson is merely hoisting himself back into terrible danger. 2 knockdowns survived, but more to come. It's almost beyond belief that he can actually fight back. This is the 5th knockdown. And not a moment too soon. This is how Patterson was dropped for the 6th time. Johansson now is almost crazy with anxiety. The World Heavyweight Championship in his grasp, and yet he can't keep this man on the floor. Patterson has no place to go where he can escape the fearful hammering Johansson's giving him, and so far The referee, Ruby Goldstein, has shown no compassion in a practical way, such as stopping the fight. These 6 knockdowns have occupied about a minute. Boxing is about to crown a new heavyweight champion from Europe for the first time since Primo Carnera, a quarter of a century before.